Hello everybody, so hopefully the delay won't be too bad because sometimes I'm just sitting waiting for the stream to start and then obviously doing nothing. So welcome to the stream. As the title and description suggest, this is going to be a theme stream for chatting about illnesses, medical conditions, diseases, or stuff like that, medicines, whatever. Oh, thank you very much, Soft Program. And hopefully you like the new background. I've altered the wall so it's a bit less messy and it looks a bit more organised. So I've got the French right armour without the Kevlar vest with the GP7 there holding a spear. That's a sparring spear, it's not got a point on it for obvious reasons. I don't want a real spear falling over there. Got the gas mask sign. I've got a Soviet gas mask civil defence poster. And then the majority of the masks on that poster I've got set up in a circle around the poster basically. So hello to everybody, and thank you again Airsoft Brogan for the donations. So yeah, anybody that's been donating recently, that's what it's gone towards a bit, getting that poster, because that wasn't cheap, I'm afraid. That was like nearly 30 quid, but I thought I might as well get something like that because that would look really good as a background, and then I can have that there. So I'm still not sure how I'm going to totally rearrange everything else, because there's a lot of stuff just sitting on the end of my bed at the moment where I've taken stuff down. I'm not sure where I'm going to put it yet, but I'll find a space for it. What I might do as well at some point is if I can get smaller propaganda kind of posters or NBC informational posters or like little cards, I'll stick them around in the gaps as well so it fills, the space up a bit more. But I haven't decided yet exactly what I'm going to do with that. No, the thing is now with prescriptions at least, I use a local pharmacy and they're very good. If they can't get medications in, they let me know straight away, and then they contact my doctors and they try and sort something out, like an alternative medicine that has similar effects, or bigger boxes of a lower dose, or, like smaller boxes of a higher dose kind of medication. So my local pharmacy is really good. Since I've switched from actually Lloyd's having like a big pharmacy do it to like a local one, they are much, much better. Like they actually go, like a big step further to actually make sure people get their medicines and all that. Oh, glad you're enjoying sitting on the beach. I really don't know, Jacob, to be honest. I have no idea. Yeah, I might get some of my own merch stickers. Well, what I wanted to get is when Bart gets round to drawing something that'd be good on a poster, I'll get a poster and then I'll put that somewhere there. Or, like a smaller load of stickers, like you say. The ulcerative colitis, that started a few years ago now, I'm trying to think. At least 4 years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago. But the symptoms have been around for longer, and I'd had the problem of, my symptoms getting worse and worse, so I'd have to keep running to the toilet more and more often, I'd be losing blood. But the doctors were really bad at actually sorting me out to get anything done. They kept saying, oh, it's probably something very minor, go get checked up, we'll check you on this and check you on that. Eventually they booked me in for, is it called an endoscopy, where they put a camera down your throat at the hospital. But then, luckily when I was at the hospital, when the doctor said, well, you're booked in for this, but that's not really the end we should be looking at, so can you sign a consent form and we'll give you a colonoscopy at the same time when we sedate you? And I said, yeah, because obviously I want to get this sorted out. And then they said, yeah, your colon's fucked. Well, they didn't word it like that, but, they gave me a load of gory photos from inside of my body. And then they're like, we're starting your medication straight away. We're really annoyed that the doctors took so long to, transfer you here. Because even with ulcerative colitis, if they'd left it longer, my colon could have been, irrecoverable, and I might have had to have my colon removed. And if it was something worse, I could have obviously died. So that's strange. I don't know why, because the mic is set up as usual and my stream settings haven't changed, so apologies, but I don't really know if there's anything I can do about that. Yeah, the thing is with self-medication, is it's one of those things where I think if people are sensible about what they're doing, it could obviously be very beneficial. The issue is obviously if people don't know what they're doing or they abuse the substances they're taking, then obviously it can be bad. Well, basically I'm treated using medications. So I have something called pentasemeslamine, which is like, that's the thing I talked about in that video recently about my biggest shit hit the fan fears. Basically, what that does is it coats your colon, and I think the idea is that while that's coating the colon, the body has a harder time damaging it. But I also, like, I'm giving, like, if I get a flare-up, I'm given a load of different things I can be given for it, basically. So, what was I going to say? So, basically, like, you know, like, the medication gets more severe, but if my ulcerative colitis gets more severe, you know, like, they can give me those medications temporarily. So that's what I have for that. Painkiller-wise, I can be treated. Thankfully, I now get on repeat prescription codeine and paracetamol, not as cocodamol, but actually, like, codeine and paracetamol separately, so I can, ramp up my codeine dose if need be, and obviously I've talked to docs about that, and I don't want anybody in the chat going, oh no, codeine's an opiate, you shouldn't take that, it's bad for you. Because obviously, yes, as we were saying, if you abuse drugs like that, they're bad, but for people with chronic illnesses or terminal pain, opioids are absolutely fine because you actually need them, there's nothing else they can give you. Because part of the problem with ulcerative colitis is you can't be given quite a lot of painkillers because it will actually make the UC worse. So I can't have aspirin, and I can't have ibuprofen, or I can't have anything like that, NSAIDs. So they can literally give you paracetamol, which does almost nothing because of how weak it is, and it's more for treating headaches and things like that, paracetamol, or you can be given opioids. That's basically your only choices. So sorry, I've probably missed a load of comments when you said that. Let me check what celiac disease is, because I have no idea off the top of my head. No, I don't have that because they've done biopsies and everything. What I have is ulcerative colitis, and that's an autoimmune disease. It's where my own immune system attacks my body. Yeah, you can definitely get quite annoyed, can't you, or like almost depressed if you have a chronic illness, because there are lots of things where you can just think, why was I dealt such a shit hand with something? But you have to really just think, don't you? I don't have a choice. I've got this, you know, I've just got to get on with it. The thing is, like I've said before though, my local pharmacy doesn't stock my drugs by default because they have to order them in, because ulcerative colitis drugs are not standard drugs, they're specialist ones. Yeah, that's good advice, Jacob. No, it's deactivated. Ah, that's cool. So you're a Swiss citizen now, are you? No, afraid I can't, but some other people might be able to give you that advice on that, Mist. But as I said, this isn't a political stream, this is talking about medications and illnesses and whatever, so keep politics off the stream, please. What do you get for that, Mr. Untitled, out of interest? Do you get something that's like the equivalent of meth? Because I know, what's it called? They give people with ADD, don't they, like a thing that's like a substitute methamphetamine. Can't think of the name of it now. Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you first get diagnosed with it, you can be quite depressed. And obviously, like I've said, when I get a flare-up, that can be when it can get really challenging, because obviously you can have issues with going to work or doing whatever else because your health has suddenly declined. That's alright, War Medic. But what I've also found recently with UC, well, not recently, I knew about this before, but I've gone back to doing it when I had a flare recently and I wasn't responding well to medication, is to take nicotine and CBD, because CBD is legal in the UK. If it's like basically, in an e-liquid form or whatever. So, anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, I'm getting distracted now, because the problem is I see comments of people asking different questions while I'm in the middle of answering a single question. But yeah, because the good thing is, because nicotine's a slight immunosuppressant, it stops, obviously, if you've got a faulty immune system, because you can be given immunosuppressant drugs for ulcerative colitis, but they're a last resort as far as I'm aware on the NHS, because the problem is that if you're taking a proper, really high-grade strength immunosuppressant every day, and then you get the flu, you could be dead. It's a bit like having AIDS. So they don't like to give those out, but obviously nicotine's a much more mild immunosuppressant. So if I mix nicotine e-liquid with CBD e-liquids, they're pretty good for vaping, because CBD is anti-inflammatory. And, what was the other thing? Or sometimes I wear nicotine patches if I'm at work, because that's good. I have to sort all my medication out, but I buy an annual pass thing, because with the NHS, what's quite good is you can buy, I think all prescriptions cost exactly £9 now, I'm not completely sure. And basically, if you're somebody who's lucky enough that you don't need medication very often, you've got no chronic illnesses or whatever, every now and then you might need antibiotics or something, it makes sense just to pay the money when you're given a prescription, like the £9 or whatever it is per prescription. But obviously the problem is, if you're chronically ill and need quite a lot of different medications per month, it becomes really unaffordable if you're having to pay like £40 to £50 every month, month on month for medication. So, yeah, I bought for the last few years, since I've got ulcerative colitis, basically, I bought an annual pass thing, and I think that's just over £100 a year. But if you work out that it's £9 something per prescription, if you get 12 or more things in a year, you break even, and often I'm on like 3 or 4 different medications per month, on repeat. So, yeah, I've got asthma and I've got hay fever. This time of year, I want to really enjoy the weather, but quite often, more than not, it can just be a pain in the ass. Yeah, thanks, Riley. It's good, isn't it? Yeah, it's a Soviet civil defence poster. So it's got GP5s, GP5Ms, the PDF series children's masks, one that might even be a GP4 there, I can't quite tell from the side. And it says something 6, I suppose that's one of the PDF variants. Also got just a mask that says P2 on there, but I assume that's like the Y2K. PY60M, a couple of different dust mask type ones, and the PTM1 as well. There's a PTM1 up there. My other PTM1 came today, but I'm hanging it on that wall at the moment, so you can't see it. But I will change that around, actually, because I want to mostly make this bit on display here Soviet masks, so it fits in with the poster. Yeah, exactly, it could always be worse, as said. Like I said, the reason I said in that video, my biggest shit hit the fan fear is literally, where something disrupts medical supplies. Also, sorry if the fan's buzzing quite a lot in the background, because the room's getting quite hot. The computer fan just speeds up. I've got on the slowest setting. Well, enjoy, I don't know if that's the right word for it, Avon, but yeah, I did enjoy it, but it's very depressing and bleak, isn't it? It's a bit like watching Fred's, but it's certainly worth a watch. Yeah, it's weird. Sometimes, Ian, I'll have one year where my hay fever barely affects me, and then I'll have other years where, I have days and days where I just feel awful. The worst thing I hate about hay fever, and I've got this a little bit now because today's been a day with a high pollen count kind of thing, is where you get the itchy kind of slightly sore throat from it. Because I find like a sore throat is one of the most irritating symptoms when you have a cold. Like sneezing every now and then doesn't bother me because you can just, use a tissue. Or coughing, similar thing. But the sore throat is the one that really annoys me. Helmet looking thing, that is, I'll do a video showing this properly, but this is cool. Again, it's not a medical thing. It's a Stahlhelm that was converted into a fire helmet that West Germany used. So it's got the leather kind of bit at the back. It's got a visor, but this one was missing the visor, but it only cost 25 quid. But, you know, it would have the visor here. I've got, Mike suggested a chainsaw mesh visor, because they're cheap, so I'm getting one of those to see if I can fit it. And it's glow-in-the-dark paint on it. So I'll quickly show you that. I won't turn the light off, but what you can probably see from that is just how, you can see it like leaving a snail trail kind of thing of the glow-in-the-dark thing. See? Ooh, that's quite fun, isn't it? I do find that really cool how it does that, but yeah. That glowed all night long when I had it in this room last night. In Fallout, probably stim packs, because they're the one I think you need to end up using most. But do you mean things like Mentats and Med-X and all the others? I don't actually know, to be honest, because in a lot of my Fallout playthroughs I very rarely use chems unless I'm trying to do like a skill check. It's not radioactive. I put my Geiger on it, no reading. And as far as I'm aware, both tritium and radium paint give off a bit of gamma radiation, but the Geiger just gets completely background levels on it. So I don't think it's either tritium or radium. Well, if you're wearing something like a respirator, no, it won't make it worse, because that's stopping... I mean, unless you're having an asthma attack with a gas mask on, at least for me, I very rarely get gas attacks, asthma attacks, if I've got a mask on, because the filter is stopping the stuff coming through that would trigger the asthma in the first place. Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea for a video, Mike, walking around at night with that helmet on. I think it depends, Mr. Untitled, because, like, with some of the medications I'm on, like, the doctors say they trust me to obviously adjust the dose as needed. So, what they do, at least with my codeine, is they give me boxes of 100 at a time, and that's meant to last me 25 days if I'm on the lowest possible dose. But they say, obviously, if I'm having a flare-up, I can take 60 mg every 4 hours if I want to. They wouldn't advise a higher dose than that, but then it would only last me about a week for a box of 100, because they do it in 15 mg, so I can scale it. But at the moment, I'm finding I'm needing less than 4 tablets a day. So, you know, like 15 mg every 4 to 5 hours, less than that, because my colitis is quite well under control. Like I said, it's almost in total remission, but I do still get the stomach cramps and the pain a bit, but because I'm not having a flare-up, they're quite manageable. So you take some painkillers, you try and do something to take your mind off it, and you can, you know, get your mind off of it. If you've got a dry cough, as in an unproductive cough, there's quite a few different medicines you can get for that. Is it dextrometamorphin's a pretty popular one? I mean, most cough medicines that work are opioids, again, so there is an addiction potential for some people with them. Codeine cough medicines aren't supplied in many places now, because again, codeine's a popular one for abuse. But Folcodine's quite good, because Folcodine doesn't actually get people high. Well, as I've said, Daniel, because my health's so fucked anyway, I really couldn't care, but it's obviously a lot safer than smoking. The NHS and we've had a few independent medical studies in the UK that have pretty much said it's like 95% safer than smoking. So, you know, for me, that's fine. But, again, there's been things like popcorn lung reported with it, but from what I can understand, that's like very cheap and nasty e-liquids that had like really dodgy chemicals in. If you're buying them from proper brands, from like proper shops, that's not going to happen. I doubt I'd still be alive in 50 years' time, to be honest. No, everything I own, Mixer, as I've said many times, is totally legal. I wouldn't have stuff if it was illegal. Well, as in ulcerative colitis, it's genetic as far as anybody knows. They don't know, it's just you suddenly develop it. One day you're fine, the next just shit and blood, having horrible stomach cramps, because your immune system has decided that your colon doesn't belong in your body anymore. Well, I can't stockpile, as I said the other day, my ulcerative colitis medication because it has like a really short expiry date on it because of how it works. And you get given like a couple of months supplies every couple of months. So even if you were to attempt to stockpile it, like every couple of months you'd be getting, like a quarter of one box at most, and then after a year or 2 years it would be useless anyway. Well, I mean, yeah, if you didn't Alexander the Great, going back into the times of like, the Greek Empire and things like that, they gave their soldiers opium, didn't they? Yeah, exactly. A lot of the stuff being is where big tobacco companies have tried to shill almost against vaping because obviously they're losing money from it. Also, the more disgusting thing I find is where there's been some government bodies, and because e-liquids aren't taxed like cigarettes, they're trying to make people more scared of e-liquids than smoking, because even though we know that smoking's bad for people, they get tax money from smoking. Oh yeah, you've just literally said what I've was just saying, Bing, so yeah, you're completely right about that. Yeah, don't forget to like the stream, everybody, it does help out. But yeah, we've already got 33 likes on the stream, which is good. You can get various amounts in it, Riley. I bought some more today, actually, because it turns out one of my local petrol stations does 3 for £10 on 10ml bottles of e-liquid. And again, you could probably get more interesting stuff online. But at the moment, I tend to be using, I think, 12 to 18 mg bottles. But I've still got some bottles from ages ago where I even tried like 36 mg liquids, and I've had some which have been like 4 or 5 mg. Again, it depends, because if you have like a really strong e-liquid, you only need 1 or 2 puffs and, the nicotine really hits hard. Whereas if you're using a low strength one, you can vape for a lot longer, but it doesn't work as much. So I kind of like the middle ground of having, like, saying around the 12 to 18 mg range, where, you get the effects of the nicotine fairly quickly, but it's not really harsh on your throat and, almost overwhelming. Yeah, if the breathing techniques work for you, Iron Man, that's brilliant, because, that's the thing I would say to people in a lot of the times. If you have a condition where certain things can help it that aren't pharmaceutical or whatever, that's probably the better option to go for. But for some people, obviously, certain things won't actually help, will they? And they will need the medication. Yeah, I heard about Kratom. I mean, I didn't know much about it, but I heard when people were talking about it, I thought, oh, look this up, and no, it's totally banned in England. I certainly wouldn't manage 60 mg e-liquid. Wow, considering I'm on camera and I'm streaming Zeppelin, I won't say what they are, but yes. But as I've already been saying in the stream, I'm on a load of prescription medications, aren't I? And they're technically drugs. Well, alcohol can be used as a disinfectant. They used to use it as a painkiller when they didn't know of anything better. But to be honest, I think alcohol is a lot more destructive than a lot of the illegal drugs that are around. No, I don't make my own e-liquids. I sometimes mix some of mine, where I'll put a bit of one flavour and a bit of another flavour, but I've never made any. I wouldn't have any idea how you would make it. Hope you had consent to hold the baby, Peach. Sure you did, though. Well, as said, Andre, the problem is my health will deteriorate as soon as the medicine runs out. It's not like I instantly die, but what ends up happening is my ulcerative colitis will flare up. The symptoms will get worse and worse of each day or each week, basically, until it gets to the point where I'll become extremely anemic, extremely dehydrated, or my colon will basically rupture itself. Yeah, like I said, when people are on about self-medicating, I think the people who drink to, try and get away from their problems is one of the worst things you can do. Yeah, and they're even worse now, supposedly, Bing, aren't they? I've never tried any of those black mambas or whatever they call them, or spice or whatever, but now that they're not even legal highs, apparently they've got even worse shit in them, because they don't have to even put on the, like, you know, packet what's in them. Yeah, the one I'm using at the moment is a cherry and menthol one, that I filled up with earlier. Cherry menthol, there you go. But yeah, I bought 3 menthol one today because I quite like the fact that menthol sort of counteracts the nicotine sort of bit you get on your throat. So yeah, I got cherry menthol. What were the other ones I got? Let me get them out. I haven't opened them yet because I won't open them until I get more through the other ones. And these are the other ones I got. Raspberry menthol, that's an 18 mg one, and fruity menthol, that's a 12 mg one. But like I said, because they sell quite a lot of e-liquids now in the local petrol station, like actually more than the brands of cigarettes they sell, it's really convenient because when I fill my car up, if I need any more e-liquids, I can get them, and they do 3 for £10. So yeah, it's quite good. Yeah, that's the good thing here, War Medic, is obviously because we have socialised healthcare, and I think that is one of the very good uses of having a socialised kind of thing. You don't have to pay more than like £9 or whatever it is per prescription, or you can do what I do and pay yearly, you know. So what it might cost for one of your prescription meds in the US, you know, I can get however many I want in a year on that price. Yeah, wish you all the best luck for that, Andre. But yeah, I know you can get like some horrible eye conditions, can't you? Oh yeah, the Nazis were the first people, weren't they, that did all the anti-smoking campaigns and lots of the investigations into it. I imagine it'd be probably Fight at Peach, because obviously the problem is that my actual proper colon it doesn't like anymore, so if I had a transplant one, I imagine it would like it even less. Obviously it's just where something breaks in your body, and all of a sudden it decides your colon doesn't belong in there anymore. So I suppose the only way they could really fix it is if they're able to alter your DNA or whatever goes wrong, you know, in a kind of sci-fi thing to fix it. Yeah, I think MDMA though is actually looked into now in some countries, isn't it, as part of like depression therapy. Um, it's hard to say, Iron Man Spartan, because apparently there are, but the doctors at the hospital really don't know. So they've suggested I keep a food diary, and I found it can conflict for me. Like, you know, a lot of the stuff that some people think affects them, it doesn't affect me. Again, I don't try and have a lot of sugar. If I have sugar, it's like that's in fruit and stuff naturally. I don't like adding sugar to coffee and stuff like that if I can help it. Um, so I've cut my sugar intake down quite a lot. But spicy food certainly isn't good for me anymore. Again, I'll risk it now and again, but I can't regularly eat spicy food, even though I actually like eating it. It doesn't agree with me later down the line. Yeah, it sounds like a total myth. They probably make you just as impotent, wouldn't they, Mike, as using normal fags, or cigarettes, I should say. I just quit. There was no weaning off, nothing like that. I just decided I was going to quit, and I quit. I wasn't even vaping at the time, you know, I just quit. Just said, I'm not buying anymore, I'm stopping, and stopped. I'm assuming I could be Iron Man Spartan, but I've never needed it. I've noticed one of the problems I have with certain types of mayonnaise, and this is weird. Because some brands of mayonnaise are completely fine, others can cause the UC to flare, and I don't know why. Well, as said, I'm going to risk that War Medic because it helps with my ulcerative colitis, which will affect me every day otherwise. Most of the things where people associate nicotine with health problems are things where they're associated with smoking health problems, where nicotine, can be taken as a patch, gum, vaping, whatever. Well, just because it costs too much mostly to learn a lot, and a few people in my family asked me politely if I'd quit, because they didn't want me to die, or get cancer or whatever, and I said, yeah, fair enough, it costs too much. There are alternatives. The thing is, I never really smoked all that much anyway when I smoked. I found the ones that are mostly okay Zeppelin, weirdly enough, are the supermarket brand ones, like, the cheap and nasty mayos. So if you get like Sainsbury's Basic or Tesco Value mayo, they're generally alright, and I reckon it's because they probably put less ingredients in it. It's probably just quite watered down mayonnaise. They're not as high in calories as some of the other mayos. But, they're the ones that are alright. But generally, if I go for, the proper Heinz ones or a lot of the other brands of, mayos, even though they taste a lot better, they cause me a lot more problems. But as said, War Medic, it's a catch-22 situation, isn't it? Because even the medication I'm given for ulcerative colitis by the doctor has a shitload of side effects. It's just, the gamble is that those side effects are less bad than not giving you the medication. Yeah, it could be very much something like that, Andre. I really don't know. What do they make them from for the ones that aren't eggs? I know they'd have, probably vegetable oil in, but what do they use as an alternative to the egg whites, then? The thing is with nicotine patches, Peaches, they're designed to release nicotine over, normally 24 hours in quite low doses. So, I didn't get on with nicotine patches when I first tried them, because that's when I was an infrequent smoker. So if I only smoked one or two, equivalents of cigarettes, even though I normally smoked cigarillos or, pipe tobacco per week, I found that nicotine patches made me feel really ill to begin with. But now I've, started vaping a bit more. I find that nicotine patches, I don't really feel anything from them, but I obviously know when I'm on them compared to when I'm not on them. Because when I'm not on nicotine patches, I'm more likely to have ulcerative colitis symptoms. I've not noticed ice cream being good or bad, to be honest. I don't think it really makes a difference. It could easily be a particular ingredient, but sadly I've never managed to, find out what it is. For anybody joining the stream that doesn't know, this is one talking about medical stuff, so I'm not going to answer questions, or at least I'm not going to try not to, on stuff that doesn't relate to medical stuff, or medicines, drugs, illnesses, that kind of thing. That's interesting. So it's the thickener, is it, which makes it look kind of like it's got the eggy stuff to it? No, exercise doesn't seem to have anything to do with the ulcerative colitis, Iron Man. Like I said, you can get flare-ups randomly where there's no triggers. You could have no symptoms for a week and then all of a sudden it hits you like a train. But as I said, the most things I found are particular diet kind of things. But again, it doesn't seem consistent. I know there's certain foods I should avoid, but even then if I'm avoiding them I can still get a flare-up. I don't have any military surplus pressure bandages or anything like that. There are some bandages in my car's first aid kit, but I don't know what brand they are because they're just in there. They came with the car. Yeah, unprocessed honey's meant to be really good, isn't it, in terms of like how antibacterial it is. Ulcerative colitis flare-ups is in internal bleeding, incredibly painful stomach cramps, you know, really fast weight loss, as in I can lose several kilos in a few days. No, as far as I'm aware, medics would warn the normal mask worn by everybody else. I wouldn't say I have any phobias as such. There's certain things the idea of it sort of scares me, but I think that I wouldn't say they're phobias. You know, like I dislike spiders, but I'm not scared of them. You know, I can catch them and throw them out the window. So I'm not something like, oh, it's a spider, it's a spider. I just don't particularly like them. Things like cave diving creep me the fuck out, but again, it's not a phobia because it's not irrationally scary. I think you wouldn't really be sensible, would it, to dive underwater in a cave, you know, where there's so many things that can go wrong. Yeah, that's a good point, Bing. Speaking of stuff about that, just something that's worth pointing out, activated charcoal tablets. These are really good. I think we were chatting on one of Weapon Collector's streams about them, but you can take those if you've eaten something that you think might upset your stomach, and then the charcoal absorbs, like, you know, whatever does it, like the gas or whatever, and they are really good for treating, like, sort of bloating and stuff like that. If I'm at a really high height, I can feel a bit dizzy, but I don't have a phobia of it. But again, I think the human body is probably conditioned for most people not to like being at heights, you know, because, again, it's a survival instinct, isn't it? What do you mean, gluten or something, Andre? I'm certainly not gluten intolerant, but I found if I eat a lot of bread, that is another thing that can cause a flare-up. Like, if I eat, like, every day I have a little bit of bread, I'm fine. If I have a day where I decide I'm going to eat lots of sandwiches and stuff like that, you know, maybe have some toast at one part of the day, a sandwich in another part of the day, whatever, within a couple of days I generally always have a flare-up. So it seems like if I have enough bread in a short period, yes, otherwise I'm fine with it. No, they do the opposite, Peach, because the farts, your gas that is in your stomach is absorbed into the tablets. So you just shit out all your farts in a tablet form, basically. Well, as I've said, I know not to take it at the same time as medication and everything else, but, you know, if you had an ulcerative colitis flare, you'd know you'd basically take anything to stop the pain. You can just literally buy them in bulk off of Amazon, or some pharmacy sell them. As Andre was saying, don't go mad with them, you know, because, again, like most things, taking too much of it for too long is a bad idea. But, you know, like I said, most of the time I just keep them handy in case I need them, but most of the time I don't. Well, as I said, ulcerative colitis. So, probably, yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea, Iron Man Spartan. Yeah, you could be right, because as I said, I've already cut down on a lot of sugary foods, but yeah, I suppose stuff like bread and certain alcohols would be very high in sugar, wouldn't they? So that's a good point. I'm not going to argue with it, you, Andre. You're welcome to your opinion. Like I said, they work for me, so I'm going to carry on taking them. I think I've had zinc and magnesium tablets before, and they didn't do anything for me, so there you go. I think I had ZMA. ZMA actually gave me very interesting, like, vivid dreams, but it didn't do anything for my stomach. You should hire them, Rich. You should get them to shit that coal out for your forge. Maybe it'd be really good quality coke. I don't know. Well, what you get due to radiation, if you get like a fatal dose of radiation, is called acute radiation syndrome. And that's where basically the cells in your body are destroyed, so your body can't repair itself. So that's why people literally rot while they're still alive if they get radiation syndrome. Because it's basically like where, you know, you start going blind, your skin starts going necrotic, you know, all that sort of stuff. In terms of lower doses from radiation, you just have like increased cancer risks. But yeah, the silly thing I've seen loads of people say on the internet, and obviously idiots on the internet, that's not a surprise, is it? But where people don't seem to understand that exposure to radiation is generally never a good thing. You know, obviously the more you're exposed, the worse it is. But where there's, you know, videos of people doing really stupid stuff with really radioactive materials, you know, where the Geiger counter alarms go off within like 1 second, you know, telling them to get out of there, and they're stood around poking it for like 10 minutes without protective gear on. As much as I've played around with Fiesta, where I'm on about, like, you know, actual, like, radioactive graphite and stuff like that. And people are going, oh yeah, but he didn't get a high enough dose to get acute radiation syndrome, so he'll be fine. It's like, no, he's still probably 20 times more likely to get any sort of cancer in his life now than before. Oh yeah, it's that period where you think you're going to recover and won't. Yeah, the ones I quite like, I'm trying to think what they're called, is it Tums? They're quite good. But I've not needed them all that much recently. But I did have quite a few times before where I had to keep going into hospital with like really bad heartburn kind of things, where I was getting really, really bad acid reflux. But they gave me a medication to take for a month, like, you know, 1 tablet a day for a month, and then to see what happened, you know. And after that course of medication, touch wood, I've never had any severe acid reflux since, at least nothing compared to that level. I really don't like Coke or Pepsi. I mean, I like Pepsi a bit more than Coke, but I just find them too sweet and sugary. I generally find they do give me stomach aches, though, most, like fizzy drinks. Yeah, one of them died not too long ago, did they? But apparently that's because all the water in the basement of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant actually absorbed a lot of the radiation. So, you know, a lot of the gamma down there was kind of losing its strength as it went through the water. So, you know, it's kind of the crazy thing that while they were in somewhere really radioactive, that all that water that was there was actually giving them a bit of shielding. Yeah, just what Jacob said there. Water's actually very good shielding from radiation. That's why lots of nuclear reactors have bits in water. Because obviously, as well as water being used as a coolant, it means that, you know, a certain distance away, the radiation can't get out the water. Anabolic steroids are completely illegal as far as I'm aware. Maybe they are legal under prescription for certain conditions, but you can't buy them anywhere. I used to quite like cherry Coke, to be honest. Vanilla Coke was quite an interesting tasting one as well, but as I said, I don't really bother with fizzy drinks. If the only kind of fizzy drinks I'll ever have really now is either cream soda or lemonade. Lemonade's generally alright for me, but I find even cream soda can give me like I didn't spot anybody in the thing where their neck was exposed. But again, even with real life NBC gear, unless you get some that really fits you well, you will have exposed skin. Ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease are very related. They're both inflammatory bowel diseases. But Crohn's is like the worst one because it affects more than just your colon. But they're kind of like sister diseases, if you want to call them that. I'm sure they wouldn't do very well, Zeppelin, but I suppose it depends on what's causing the mental illness, doesn't it? Oh, it's a bit complicated. I mean, obviously, if there's something wrong in your brain, but what I mean is, with a lot of people with depression and stuff like that, they probably have depression to some degree because of lots of problems in modern societies. So, you know, if everybody's gone a bit Mad Max, they'll have completely different sets of priorities, I imagine, rather than worrying about, like, the amount of hours they work for their job and all stuff like that. No problem, Bing. I haven't actually heard much about Fukushima for ages. But I know there's apparently still quite a lot of radiation leaking out into the sea, isn't there, regarding that? But we'll try and keep the topic on medical stuff rather than talking about radiation, because obviously as much as radiation sickness kind of stuff's medical, if we get a bit off into, you know, nuclear war or whatever, it's a bit off thing. Well, I've seen the entire series, Dylan. Depends on the type of gas, Ivan. Nerve agent, no. Things like cyanide gas and, you know, chlorine, phosgene, yes, it would protect you because they get in through your respiratory system. No, Iron Brew is not cream soda. Cream soda's like vanilla kind of fizzy drink. It's like a very strong vanilla tasting fizzy drink. But anyway, as said, let's get back onto the medical chat, because otherwise we're getting completely off topic now. See, I'm trying to think how many medications I'm on per day at the moment. Probably like 6? Yeah, probably about 6, I think. So yeah, basically every morning I get up and then I have all my tablets laid out in a box so I can, you know, just go do through them in the morning so I don't forget to take them. Right, see you, Ivan. Probably VX nerve agent, Jacob. But again, it varies on how it's being dispersed or whatever. But again, not on topic. Not on topic, so learn a lot. I think the ones that are like the really old-fashioned medical books, which talk you through doing certain procedures and have lots of very useful knowledge in, yes. Because they'd be like one of the only sources of medical information if you'd not actually, you know, got a doctor on hand, like, you know, home remedies, you know, ones that actually work, I mean. You know, and like ways that talk you through doing very basic procedures, then yeah, I imagine they would be invaluable. But not ones that just have a list of every disease in them or whatever. As I've said, Rasim, sadly not, because I can't get it, because the medicine for ulcerative colitis you can't have on backup because it's very short expiry dates, because of its, like, I don't know, it might be slightly probiotic or something, but you just literally can't get it with, like, longer than 7 months date on it or something like that, and you can't get much at once. Well, as we already said, Andre, we've tried to narrow it down. We can narrow it down to a few things, but you can't cure ulcerative colitis. It's an autoimmune disease. Well, as I said, Bing, I kind of do that anyway. I get as much as I can, you know, I'm always very early to put the prescription in when I'm able to, but the problem is that, you know, like I said, you can only have so much. And again, I suppose if you had a bit more after the expiry date, it might work or be a bit less effective, but it's one of those things where the medication is really not good once it expires. Yes and no, Dylan. It protects you to a degree, right? Atropine, as far as I'm aware, what atropine does is it blocks the nerve agent from kind of messing with your neural signals. But the thing is, like, atropine would only work up to certain doses of nerve agent and certain strengths. So it's kind of like, you can give that to somebody to save their life if they've been exposed to a low amount of nerve agent, potentially, but they can still be incredibly ill. But yeah, you wouldn't be able to walk through a cloud of VX just by being given a shot of atropine, or else they'd just give them shots of atropine daily without giving them NBC suits. You'd still die. It's just, it's kind of a bit like where people take iodine tablets for thyroid cancer. It just kind of works, it blocks the bit that the thing interacts with, but it'll only do so much. What's the temperature at the moment? 26.4 degrees Celsius, according to my, or centigrade, according to my thermometer. So not too bad. Just the computer's a bit annoyed at that heat. Well, it's probably something to do with, Jacob, the fact that opioids obviously, opioid receptors in the brain. But again, it's, I think because it has both a mental and a physical, it acts physically as a painkiller, and it makes people feel good, that if they're given it quickly, they're probably going to remember less traumatic pain, aren't they? I mean, I'm not an expert on anything like that, so I really couldn't say why, but I'm assuming that's the reason. What's your humidity? My humidity is 49% at the moment, which isn't too humid, actually. Some days it ends up being like 80% humidity. Now, I do know that they had all the crazy radioactive quackerillo back in the day, where they did all the stuff like, you know, they thought eating bits of like radioactive substances or drinking radioactive substances or shoving them up your ass would make you, you know, healthier, and it just made people die horribly. D&B Militaria. Yeah, that's what I'm sort of saying, Andre. I think that's the same way atropine works. Because it's already in your system, the other bits can't get in as effectively. I don't get mosquito bites, basically, because we don't generally get many mosquitoes in the UK. You get gnat bites and other sort of little biting flies. You can just really use any kind of antiseptic cream. It depends how much it bothers you, because sometimes I can be bitten by flies and things, and it doesn't bother me at all. It feels just like a little tiny cut. Yeah, I've got a uranium bowl, like, you know, the uranium glass bowl on order, so I can do a video showing the Geiger count with it, you know, the lovely bright green ones. I found green tea, though, is quite good for ulcerative colitis. Like we were saying about CBD as well. It's one of those things where it's not going to work instead of your medication, but if you drink green tea often or take a green tea supplement with the medication, it generally seems to reduce the rate of flare-ups. Yeah, well, lots of military uniforms now, like the British Army ones, the MTP ones, are actually coated with insecticides when you get them. No idea. I don't like the idea of maggots on me, to be honest. Even though I know they mostly eat dead skin or whatever. Still doesn't seem like a particularly good idea if there's a better medical way around it. You'd need a UCARA thing, Alfie. I'm not going into that in this stream because it's really not relevant. And the laws aren't even straightforward on it. So, they could sell you one if they want to, but they don't want to, basically, is what a UCARA means. No idea, Jacob. Not a clue. But yeah, there's lots of stuff, isn't there, where like mosquitoes can do it, and as temperatures change, like as certain, you know, like bugs or animals move their migration courses, they can obviously spread diseases that you wouldn't have normally got in certain areas. I don't know, only for the people that would need it, I imagine. But lead also has a lot of bad effects on the body. Again, it will shield you from radiation, but you don't want to be inhaling lead dust, do you, or whatever, because lead's poisonous and can make you mad, supposedly. Just like mercury did. Right, tomorrow, I'll just say this now while I think of it. There's a possibility I may do a stream. I've got quite a busy day tomorrow. But if I get a chance to do a stream, it will be about 11 AM UK time. The reason being that because I have to go out at very early afternoon and then I'll be out for nearly all the day, I'm not going to get a chance to do a stream. And obviously Saturday I'm working, Sunday I'm working, but I might get a chance to stream Sunday evening after work. But yeah, just to let everybody know that I previously said I wouldn't be streaming tomorrow, but there's a chance now I might actually stream, but it'll be quite an early one. When you say that, do you mean, Dylan, do you just mean the air freshener? Well, it makes you cough horribly because it's so thick in the air, but it doesn't have any long-term health effects. But I wouldn't recommend, you keep doing stuff like that all the time. Well, at the moment, it's 2 minutes to 9 o'clock. UK time is in 20:58 PM at the moment, so work that out yourself. You can use Google to tell you what the time is in different countries. No, aspirin can kill me if I take it, so yeah, I can't have aspirin at all because it increases the bleeding in my stomach. But yeah, it's a good suggestion for people it might work for, but I can't have it. Go to your doctor, I guess, Uncle Sasha. I don't know, go to your doctor, whatever the medical services are in your country, do it properly. Go see a doctor. Yeah, I think you're an hour ahead. Normally you'd be 2 hours ahead in Sweden, because we're on British summertime at the moment. We're artificially an hour forwards. I wish in the UK we didn't keep changing the clocks forward and back every 6 months or whenever they do it. I think we should just stick to regular GMT 0 and just stay on that. Well, a family doctor certainly could help, because I'll refer you to a specialist if you need to see a specialist. The point is, you go see a proper doctor, you don't really ask people... I'm not having a go at you, but I'm saying if you've got a proper medical condition or something you need to speak to somebody about, you go and see a doctor, you don't ask for help on the internet, because the internet won't be able to give you help. I mean, there's certain things where you can get good advice online, like there's forums I don't have any accounts on them, but there's forums I look at for like ulcerative colitis and Crohn's stuff, where some people will post about things they've tried that have worked well for them, like diet-wise, supplement-wise, all that kind of thing. So you can use that to get some idea of like things that seem to be common across different people. But again, you can still get lots of conflicting stuff on that, where something that works for one person doesn't seem to work for others. Alright, I'll do this stream for a little bit longer, but not for ages tonight. Are you streaming on Twitch tonight at 10 PM, Mike? Because I'll be on, if you are. I'll definitely show this, because this is like an EDC thing whenever I'm out. Some of you will have seen this before, but this is my medical box. For like... It's not a med kit, by the way, so if people go, there's not a bandage in it, you're missing the point. But what we have in here is codeine phosphate, caffeine tablets, paracetamol, antihistamines, so hay fever tablets, and cocodamol and Imodiums. So most of that's for ulcerative colitis. Obviously I know not to take the cocodamol with the paracetamol and all that sort of stuff, but yeah, that's the thing I have, so I can put that in a bag or a pocket if I'm out somewhere, so I've got like some of the tablets I may need in emergency if I... Yeah, that's literally the thing being, isn't it, if you search any symptom. Oh, it's cancer. It's probably that cancer has such a wide-ranging amount of symptoms that literally any symptom could be a symptom of cancer. But it's so unlikely that it is, especially when they seem to put cancer highest on the list above things like a cold or, Well, basically, radiation, depending on the source of radiation, as in the radiation's half-life, as much as I understand it, because I'm not a physicist, most people have like a lifetime dose of radiation kind of thing. So, basically most of the radiation you absorb isn't getting out of your body because it lasts longer than you will. So the more radiation you expose yourself to, the worse you'll be. So again, if you're not exposed to enough radiation to get proper radiation sicknesses or acute radiation syndrome, there's still an increased risk of cancer, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's completely answering your thing. Well, again, see a doctor, Uncle Sasha, because they'll be the only people that can help you. Yeah, as I said, don't look up symptoms online, though. Go speak to a doctor. You can say to them, I've got some symptoms that could be attention deficit disorder. But again, a doctor and, like, a trained psychologist will have to be the people to look into it, not a random checklist on the internet. Adderall was the one I was thinking of earlier when people were saying Ritalin or whatever it was. Adderall was the one I was thinking of, but yeah. You can just buy that on Amazon though, can't you? Caffeine and L-theanine tablets, whatever they're called. What, Windscale disaster? Yeah, Windscale fire. I know about Windscale. But it's not really medical related, is it, other than the cancer rates going up afterwards? But there was radiation leaking from Windscale for quite a while, so the fire was actually a good thing because it shut down the reactors. I mean, nuclear power is very safe until it isn't, for the most part. With Western safety standards on nuclear power plants, they have containment buildings, they have lots and lots of safeguards. If a bomb went off at the plant or something like that, it would be very, very bad. But in terms of, background radiation levels near a nuclear power plant compared to elsewhere, they're not going to be much different. I'd be more worried about radon gas, to be honest. £50 maybe, Harry, maybe a bit more. I don't know how much they've gone up since I got mine years ago. But when I bought mine, they were in the £40 to £50 price range, and I imagine they cost a bit more now. I'll Google L-theanine now. This might be interesting to look into it. I don't think I have attention deficit though. But it might be quite interesting for some people. Oh, but you actually get L-theanine in green tea and black tea. That's interesting. So it also has quercetin in it, or works for the production of quercetin. So again, it's one of those things where if you're deficient of it, it might be quite useful to have it, but for some people it would not make a difference taking it if they've got adequate level, a bit like how SSRIs and some of the other antidepressants are given to people who have depression or certain, medical conditions, because they're naturally not getting enough serotonin or whatever. I assume it's a similar thing to that. Nuclear energy provides most of the electricity in most countries in the West, Warmedic. Compared to, if you actually look up the amount of fatalities and things involved in nuclear disasters compared with coal mining and whatever else, and coal power plant fires and all stuff like that, nuclear is by far still the safest thing we have. Well, as I said, I can't be given immunosuppressants by my doctor except as a last resort. That's why I found nicotine is quite good with the ulcerative colitis, because it's like a mild immunosuppressant. But the reason they don't like to give you immunosuppressants if other medications do work for you to a degree of ulcerative colitis is if they give you immunosuppressants and you get the flu, you could be dead. Or, severely ill. So they don't like to give them unless they really have to give them out. It's a German fireman's helmet converted from a Stahlhelm. I'll do a video on it at some point soon, it's cool. What, do you mean, what's it called, a lobotomy, that kind of thing? That's fucked up, isn't it, that they used to think that you could damage somebody's brain and it would cure them of, mental illness or conditions. I'm assuming so. If you have an allergy to charcoal and you're using activated charcoal, then yeah, I'm sure it could cause you problems. Yeah, that's strange. I've known a few people who had like medical conditions where they've had all sorts of tests run on them and the doctors just have no idea what it is. Like nothing really serious, but people who can get like really bad headaches now and then, or you know, like you say something like that, where they get like almost like arthritis-like symptoms that can turn up and go away randomly. But yeah, it's strange, isn't it? I mean, I can't give you any advice on that, but it's interesting. But at the same time, it's a bit annoying, isn't it? If you have a condition like that and you can see as many doctors as you want, and they still are clueless as what's to doing it. Yeah, as I said, it's really fucked up. Like a lot of the weird fucked up science they used to do that had no, you know, actual reality benefit to it. Like cutting up people's brains or burning their brains with certain chemicals. I know electroshock therapy is one of the ones under certain applications can work, but for the most part it doesn't, you know, where they are randomly like, oh, let's shock mentally ill people because that will cure them. Torturing somebody essentially that's got a mental illness will cure them of their mental illness. But yeah. That's a good depressing note to end the stream on, I reckon. It's a docudrama rather than a documentary, but it's a very good docudrama. Can't think of off the top of my head any docudramas I like more than it. I don't know. Tomorrow's stream, if I do one, as said, because I've got a very busy day tomorrow, it will just be a regular stream. It'll probably be middle of next week, next time there's a theme stream, but I could do a poll, or I could ask people who support me on Patreon, you know, what they want, because it'd be nice to give rewards to people who have financially supported me. You know, obviously it has to be within reason. It can't be anything that's like, especially being in the UK, because there's certain subjects which are a bit too sensitive to talk about in a country where you can be arrested for saying the wrong thing online, you know, so. But, you know, within reason, it might be quite good to get people discussion. But anyway, yeah, thanks everybody, it's been a good stream. Heard lots of different opinions on things, you know. So yeah, thanks everybody. Thank you for the donation. Was it Airsoft Brogan who gave me the donation? Can I check that? It was Airsoft Brogan. So yeah, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. You know, that all goes towards stuff like that in the background and whatever. Yeah, right, cool. I'll catch you on your stream in a bit. But yeah. See you everybody. Thanks for watching. It's been a good stream, an interesting one.